We all have relationships, where it's family, friends, work, neighbors. The truth is that every person enters the world through relationship. Pregnancy happens through a relationship of some sort. When we are born, the birth event, we're immediately presented with a relationship, at the least one. There's obviously mom, or there could be mom, dad, there's doctor, nurse, grandma, grandpa, aunt, uncle, friends. Who knows? And it just continues to go on and on through our life that way. It's amazing how many relationships that a person will have by the time they die. The truth is it's impossible to live on the planet, even for a few minutes, without having a relationship of some sort. Have you ever wondered why that exists? Why did God choose relationships? Was it to feel love or to give love? Was it to, feel complete? Have somebody to hang out with on New Year's Eve? Was it to have somebody to know where to go to eat, to go out to eat with, to talk things over, to joke with, to contend with, fight with? What was that for? Why did God choose relationships? What's the real purpose of relationships, and why are we made that way? In this Reset series, we're going through, starting at the beginning of the book of Acts and looking at the restart that the church went through. They actually went through kind of a shutdown themselves and a stay-at-home order until the Holy Spirit came. And then God kind of reset the church, kind of took it back to the factory default setting like you do with your phone, and then begin adding these apps back in, these rhythms back into the church that have continued for centuries. It really retooled it to last for the next few centuries, to where we are right now. Driven by the Spirit, we begin to see some particular rhythms begin to happen within the church in the Acts chapter 2, verses 42 through 47. And we've been kind of branching off of that and looking at the core values of Bay West Church, which have been taken from that. The first week we looked at seek God faithfully through His Word and through prayer, and how that's a value for us. We want that to be at the forefront of everything we do. We want to attentively love and value all people. Everyone is made in God's image. There's no one we should look down on or devalue. We also talked about eagerly participating honestly in worship, and that's not just the music that we sing, but it's the life that we live. And today we want to talk about relationships. Because when you look at that beginning of the church, Acts 2, 42 through 47, relationship is demonstrated all over it. Just look at these phrases. Devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching. That's relationship. To fellowship. By definition, relationship. They were filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. Relationship. The believers were together and had everything in common. Relationship. They sold property and possessions. Well, I guess that's kind of stewardship, but why did they sell property and possessions? To give to people who were in need. Relationship. They had this Spirit-driven generosity to pool their resources together to accomplish the mission that God had set before them, to love people through relationship. They continued to meet together. That was relationship. They broke bread together in relationship. They praised God. Yes, they're praising God in that relationship, but they did it together. They enjoyed the favor of all people in relationship. And what did God do in response to that? He added to their number daily. He provided even more relationships. So in fact, every statement that's made about the church in those verses have a relational context to them. So what are we ought to do? You can't ignore that. That would be like saying, I'm going to go buy a car, but this whole key system thing, I don't even know what to do with that. Just throw that out in the yard. I'll just take the car. No, in relationships, it's where the engine turns on for the church in their purpose. And we're going to talk about that, about how we need to look at our relationships today and what they're about in a few minutes. But first, I want to welcome you to Bay West Church. My name is Jim Campbell. I'm the lead pastor here at Bay West Church. If you are not a part of our church, thanks for choosing to be a part today. I'd love for you to fill out our Connect card. There's a link that says Connect around, depending on the interface you're looking at. If you're looking on Roku or something like that, just type in your phone and go to baywestchurch.com/connect. Fill out that card. Let us know that you were here. If you have a prayer request, that's where we would love you to put it. We have a team that prays every week. We put that before them, and we would love to pray for you and whatever's going on in your life as well. If you are a parent, and we want to support you as you disciple your children and help them to grow closer to Christ. Now we're not having Kids Zone. That may change shortly in the future. But what we want to do is help you in any way we can. We have a Bay West Church, a Bay West Kids Zone Facebook group. If you'll go to facebook.com/groups/Bay West Kids Zone, or you can go to baywestchurch.com/Kids KidZone-online, and it'll take you to that page, and you can click on to become a member of that page. Our leaders are putting up content, video content, and discussion guides. They've done some live things, some cool things there to help you as a parent disciple your children to grow more like Christ. You know, if you are not a part of a life group, we'd love you to be a part of one. You know, I have one that meets at 6:30 on Sunday nights. It's online. You can go to baywestchurch.com/groups and sign up for a group there. You can sign up for mine. We have some that are meeting in person, some that are meeting, online as well. There's a place that's on that page that says join a group, and you click that and you'll see a list of groups, and you can choose one to join that suits you. If you would like to give your tithes and offerings in your obedience to the Lord, we want to provide that opportunity for you. You can give securely online at baywestchurch.com/give. or from the Give link around the interface, depending on what you're watching it on. If you are a person that loves to mail things and you're a check person, no problem at all. You can just make the check out to Bay West Church, and you can send it to 100 Emerson Drive, Northwest, Palm Bay, Florida, 32907. If you would like to follow along with my notes, you can do that by going to baywestchurch.com/notes, or if you have the little brown YouVersion Bible app, you can click on that, go to the events section, and type in Bay West Church, and we will have our notes there, and you can follow along as I preach here in a few minutes on relationships. But before that happens, I'd love for Josue Gomez and our worship team to lead us in some musical worship, singing out to God together. Before we get started in Acts, I want to tell you about something special that's happening next week on September the 27th. We're going to be having communion online. I've never done this before, but we've been meeting apart so much, and we have so many people that are dealing with health issues and stuff, and they're at home, and we've been figuring out how do we take communion. We're going to take it together next week at 11:15 here at 100 Emerson Drive, Palm Bay, Northwest Palm Bay, Florida, 32997. We'll be there. But we want to offer it too. If you're online and you don't feel safe enough to come back out because of COVID, no worries. We're glad to help you with that. So here's what I want you to do. Before next week, I'm just get some crackers. It's representative, okay? We're not gonna mix the bread from the Old Testament or anything like that, or from the New Testament or anything like that. Try to do that. We're not gonna do that. Just get some crackers, have some juice. If you got grape juice, or you got some apple juice, or you got Gatorade, whatever you have at home, have that ready. Get a cup for everybody and some for everybody that is that's a Christ follower in your home, and I'll lead you through communion online next weekend. It's going to be cool. I've never done it before, so it'll be great, but it'll be interesting. So be prepared for that next week. We'll send out an email. We'll put it out on Facebook, but just be ready for that next Sunday, September the 27th. But today I want to talk about, as we're talking about relationships, our fourth core goal is to cultivate relationships with God's purposes in mind. Is we understand that God created relationships. And as we're looking through this in our Reset series, I want to kind of look at a case study in the book of Luke of a relationship that Jesus had, that Jesus fostered. And I want to see some key principles in this short story about Jesus that gives us the essence of the purpose for relationships, the foundation for our relationships, and a lot of the things that we need to apply and employ as we develop relationships here on earth. So we're going to look in Luke chapter 19. If you want to go to our notes page, you can go to baywestchurch.com/notes, and it'll take you to the YouVersion Bible app page where I have my notes out. If you've got the YouVersion Bible app on your smart device, you can click on that and go to the events section and type in Bay West Church, and our notes will come up for this. It's the Rhythm of Relationship is the title, and you can follow along with us. And also, I have stuff on the screen with us as we go. But in verse 1, we jump into the story. It says, Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. Now, I don't want us to miss this real quick, okay? The Bible doesn't waste words. And a lot of times we jump right past the prelude into the story, and we think it's like once upon a time. Well, no, it's not once upon a time. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. What this is saying is Jesus is just being Jesus. In this interaction that's about to show the mission statement for all relationships, when Jesus is about to give so many principles that people should base their relationships on, for the rest of time until he comes again, he's just being Jesus. He's just passing through. He's just on his way. He's just going to the convenience store. He's just doing his normal thing. He's passing through and begins to show us about relationships. Jesus, everywhere Jesus went in his passing through, wherever he was about relationships. If it wasn't disciples, it was people that heard him preach. If it wasn't his followers, it was about his skeptics. If it wasn't his family, it was with the feeble that needed him so bad. But everything, overarching everything, was this relationship with God. In fact, everything that he did here was about initiating a relationship between people and God. Everything. Everything he did had a relational aspect to it. So think about that, even as he's just being Jesus, passing through. It's all about relationships. In verse 2, it said, a man was there by the name of Zacchaeus, and he was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. Now, you've probably heard this story before. You said, Zacchaeus, oh yeah, Zacchaeus was a wee little man. Yeah, it's true. And we see what Zacchaeus was. And the characteristics of who Zacchaeus is and who he was is important to this story. It says he was a chief tax collector. Well, what that's code for is he was a thief a lot of ways. What he did was he was a tax collector. Nobody likes the IRS, but how would you like it if the IRS agent came to your house and the government told him, well, you owe $100, and the IRS agent would come say, yeah, actually you owe $175, and he would pocket the $75 and give the $100 back to the government. And you knew it. And there was nothing you could do about it because he brought his boys and his goons with him. And you hadn't to do it. He was kind of a modern day, there was a principle almost like a loan shark, where you're charging these exorbitant percentages, here and just sticking it to people. That's what Zacchaeus was. He was a chief one, which meant he had been around for a while. He was also wealthy, which means he cheated a lot of people. Everybody didn't like this guy. And they had good reason. And not only that, he was short. Now, we're not going to be, what would be, height biased or something like that. That's not cool. I'm a short guy myself. I wouldn't like that. But the truth is what we need to take from this story is that his height gave him a problem to see Jesus, right? He had to work around that to find a way to see Jesus. The truth is that it's important to understand that everybody has a story about who they are and who they've come to be. And some of that are things that they have by choice, and some of them things that they were just born into or with that was never their choice to begin with. It's important to understand who he was, to understand the story. And when you meet people, it's important to understand who they are, to understand their story as well. Because the truth is, everyone has this story that affects the people that they are today. And to know how to help someone, we have to understand about the person to know what we need to help. You've heard often that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Well, I'm going to tell you that often they only know how much you care by how much you care to know about them. It's important to know the people that are around you that God puts in your place. So we continue on. He said, so Zacchaeus ran ahead and he climbed up a sycamore fig tree because he couldn't see over the crowd, He said, so he climbed up a sycamore fig tree to see him since Jesus was coming that way. The thing we need to understand is that people who want to know Jesus, they will act to know him. They will try to know him. The characteristics of people will determine, how you help them understand who Jesus is. Zacchaeus' story was important to this. What he was a chief tax collector. Nobody wanted him. Nobody wanted to let him up at the front spot. Nobody was saving him a seat. Nobody liked him. And he was short, and he couldn't see over the crowd. He couldn't see his deficiency. What he was born with, the way he was born, was a barrier. And because of the choice he made, nobody wanted to help him. So he had to act to see Jesus. And a lot of times that surprises us, but it shouldn't. People need Jesus. And there are times that people who don't know Jesus, who want to know Jesus, will act to know him. But what do we see that Jesus did next? He said, when Jesus reached the spot, he looked up and he said to him, Zacchaeus, come down immediately. I'm going to stay at your house today. So he came down at once and welcomed him gladly. See, here's something for you and I to understand. The relationships that we have is something that Jesus understood. People who want to know Jesus will act to know him, but people who want people to know Jesus will have to act for them to know him as well. We have to be active in what we do. Jesus was observant. He had his eyes open. He saw him. He stepped out of his comfort zone. It wasn't going to be pleasant. He wasn't an idiot. He didn't think everybody liked that guy. I mean, you imagine somebody's up in a tree. I'm going to go, the one guy I'm going to know in front of all these people is the dude in the tree, the weird guy. I mean, no. He stepped out of his comfort zone and said, hey, man, I'm going to go eat at your house today. For all we know, this may have been the whole point of him going through Jericho to begin with. On his way, making a statement. But we continue on in verse 7. It says, all the people saw this, and they began to mutter. Oh, I'm so glad he went to Zacchaeus' house. No, that's not what they said. All the people saw this and began to mutter. He has gone to be the guest of a sinner. Wow. Everyone got mad. They were blown away by what happened. It wasn't just that they were blown away by what happened. I think they didn't really understand it. But see, the essence of relationship is people need to know Jesus, and somewhere inside, the Holy Spirit will prick them to know him, and they will act to help along with that. And what you'll find is the most unlikely people are curious about Jesus at the most unlikely times. Zacchaeus was probably the last guy that anyone would expect to go hang out with Jesus or even want to know about Jesus. In fact, let's be honest. I mean, if they had a vote in that town, they would probably vote him as least likely to meet Jesus. He's kind of like COVID. You just didn't see him coming. Everybody was freaked out about that. What they probably hoped was that Jesus would punish people. They would punish and judge Zacchaeus and people like him, because on the surface, Zacchaeus seemed to be the exact opposite of everything Jesus was about. See, that's why Jesus came. He didn't come to tell the healthy that they're fine. He came because the sick needed a doctor. The sick needed a Savior. We all needed it. And the truth is, we know no one measures up to the standards of Jesus. A lot of times we just hate the sin that we don't like the most. But the truth is, we're all in the same boat. But here's where a lot of us, before we know Jesus, this is where we put ourselves. We're in one of two categories. It's amazing how this works out. We are either too bad to know Jesus, or we feel like we're too good to need Jesus. That's really where we fit. We're in those two categories. I've heard it so much growing up in the South. Well, what about that church building to fall down if I walked in there? No, man, I used to tell them, you ain't that big of a dog, man. You ain't that bad. Oh, come on. Really? You know, and on the other side, we feel like we're too good to need Jesus. I don't really need that. I got it worked out. I'm on my own steam. I got it worked out. And the truth is, both those categories are false categories. They have zero people truthfully in them. Because no one's too bad to know Jesus. No one's too good to need Jesus. And a large part of our relationships here on this earth is explaining that, helping people understand that. But I love how it goes on as well. It says that Zacchaeus stood up and said to the Lord, said, look, Lord, here and now I give half of my possessions to the poor. And if I've cheated anybody out of anything, I will pay back 4 times the amount. Dude, that's huge. He's giving back. He's straightening it out. And you know what Jesus said? He said, there's just a massive change in this guy. And Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house because this man, too, is a son of Abraham. What was Jesus saying there? He said, look, salvation came to this house because he's just a dude. He's like everybody else. In other words, everyone, no matter how rich, no matter how poor, no matter how nice or how mean or no matter what their habits are, everyone needs Jesus. Everyone's in the same boat there. He's just a son of Abraham. And then he gave us the crux, the mission statement of his purpose here. He said, for the Son of Man came to seek and to save that which was lost. And in that moment, Jesus gave you the core foundational principle in every relationship that he ever had on earth or with anyone. Here's the core, the crux of it is this. He said, look, the goal of every relationship ultimately is to help someone grow closer to Jesus. The goal of every relationship is to help someone grow toward Jesus. That's the goal. Now, lots of people, they don't see that because they don't know Jesus. You don't get that until you know Jesus. You don't realize that. You certainly don't embrace it. But the hard part is that Christians sometimes don't get it. Christians, they may know it, but they don't embrace it. You know, usually we still view relationships in this old mindset of what can I get from this person? Oh, I need. I need somebody to meet my need. That's not what's up. The truth is, relationally, you need to look at it in this way. When you become a Christian, this is how it works. Relationally, God supplies all your needs. And sometimes he uses people. Rather than we think we need people to meet our relational needs, no, God's saying, I will provide your need and I'll bring the people and I will use the people that I need to use to put them in your path to meet your needs and for you to meet theirs. And I'll meet their needs through you. But it's God that's doing that. You ever wonder how Jesus could just give and 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 it just seemed like people just take? Who was Jesus' confidant? Who was helping Jesus out? I mean, it didn't seem like many. I mean, they were helping him, but he was always, draining Jesus. It's one, because he was endlessly connected to God. And he understood it. He got it. He understood the essence of a winning relationship was following Jesus. And the truth is, we're going to have relationships here on earth. God's made it that way. He's made us to seek them out. But it's not to seek them out because we need so much from them. We need from God. The goal of every relationship is that you or I will ever have is the pure goal. The reason it was created is so that someone might have a relationship with Jesus, that they would grow toward Jesus. Moms, that your son would know Jesus. Daughters, that your sister would know Jesus. Friends, that your friend would know Jesus. You, that your boss would know Jesus. That your employee would know Jesus. That the guy at the convenience store would grow toward Jesus. I'm not saying that you hold everybody down and force the gospel down their throat, but they would, when they leave the relationship that you have with them, gives them a clearer and truer picture of Jesus and why they need him. That's important. But as the goal of every relationship ultimately is to help someone grow toward Jesus, there is a truth here that we need to understand. And a lot of times when this truth happens, we're frustrated. We think something's going wrong. But I'm going to tell you, it's part of the process. It said there is pain in the process of growth. There always is. There always is. We see pain with Zacchaeus. To grow, he had to give up something. It cost him. It cost him something that was most important to him. And he was saying, look, you see what he said? Look, I'm going to go to the people I've wronged, my hat in hand, and I will pay them back 4 times what I took from them. He had to go to people that knew he'd done it and they were mad and they hated his guts. He had to go to people that thought it, but they couldn't prove it, so he's kind of in the half and half zone. He may have had to go to some people who were clueless and had no idea that he had cheated them. And he was going to have to confess it to them in humility and give them back what he prized the most. What he prized the most, you got to realize it. He was a chief tax collector. He prized wealth and he prized position and power over people. Okay? He'd given up his reputation. He'd given up friends. He'd given up all kinds of things to have that so that he could have wealth and he could have power over people. And in this, he gave it all up. He gave the 2 things he prized the most up because he found something he prized better, which was Jesus. And he said, look, I'm going to give up my wealth. I'm going to give up my wealth here. And then I'm going to give up the power over them because I'm going to subject myself to them. I'm going to go in humility to them and say, look, I was wrong. That's tough. The things he prized the most, he had to give up. Because here's the truth. He had to cut that stuff loose. And you need to understand this is a principle of growth. To grow, you have to let go. To grow, you have to let go. It's going to change. And people miss the part of that process so much. As you enter the growth process of helping someone grow like Christ, the truth is there's going to be conflict. There's going to be tension. It's going to be a problem. Pain will be a part of that process. Pain is going to be a part of that process. And here's the truth, though. If you help someone grow, if you interject yourself into their situation, you will feel the pain as well. I mean, Jesus felt it. Look at it. I mean, people criticized him. I mean, what in the world were they doing? I mean, let's think about it. If Zacchaeus is really as bad as they think and Jesus is the Savior that they know him to be, they should be jumping for joy that Jesus is going and hanging out with him because he was going to change. But he exposed something about them. They didn't know who Jesus was. They didn't get the purpose that he was there. He had to demonstrate it for them. They complained and they criticized, and that's the reason that aspect of this story, I believe, is included here, because pain is part of the growth. Pain is part of discipleship. It's part of ministry. And here's the deal. You don't need to avoid it. When it happens, you need to lean into it. Because I'm going to tell you, in that pain is the answer to your question. It's there. The truth is that God will use the pain to point out the place that he's about to perfect in you and in those around you. He'll give you cues on how you can help, cues on how you can be a better friend, a better part of that relationship. Jesus was met with conflict at every turn. He was met with conflict from people, those he led, those he served, those he opposed, those who opposed him, the disciples, the Romans, the Pharisees, the lions and tigers and bears. I mean, everybody was, at one time had some conflict with Jesus. And the reason was he was trying to help everyone grow. And it was a massively painful experience for him. But it was worth it to him. See, the truth is we're going to be in conflict with people we attempt to help grow all the time. Because at the cause of the reason for growth is sin. That's going to be there. Sin is a hard thing. And the truth is, when you try to help people grow, they'll disappoint you. They will grow and forget you. They will, or someone else, you'll do something great, someone else will get the credit, in their life, and you'll have to endure it. The truth is, in the process, it might be your sin. It might be an area of growth that you need help in, and God's going to improve you there. It might be their sin and the area of growth that they need to improve in. It might be someone else's sin, and who's someone who's on the fringe of the process. They're just kind of observing, looking at it, armchair quarterbacking what you're doing, and it may be their sin, and they need to grow in an area. It may be any combination of those three or all of them together at the same time at varying degrees, but it will be something that causes pain in the process of growth. It's not always going to be candy and rainbows. I'm going to tell you this. You may not believe me, but one of the best things that can happen to you is if you do something awesome and someone else takes the credit and it burns you up inside. You know why? Because it'll expose a part of you. It'll expose a part of the pain will expose the pride in your heart and the deficiency of your motivation, which was to be praised and not to praise. Not to praise the one who made it possible in the first place. You see, God will use the pain to point out the place that he's about to perfect, both in you and in those that you are in relationship with. And you need to have your eyes open for it. Because the presence of sin is the need for growth. It's the need to help people grow toward Jesus. It's the reason Jesus came. Sin is the reason that there are people who are lost that need to be saved, that need to be found. So not only is the goal of every relationship ultimately to help someone grow toward Jesus, not only is their pain always in the process of growth, but the truth is we can't avoid it because we love God through our relationships with people. We have to realize that. And often the quality of our relationship with God is shown with the quality of our love toward people. The biggest need has to be at the forefront of our mind at all times. Now, and you may say, Jim, that's kind of self-serving. You want me to be like a notch on my belt? I'm like an Amway salesman now. How many sales I get? How many people I get to follow Jesus or whatever? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. That's absolutely not what I'm saying. But I think the biggest need always needs to be in the forefront of your mind when you look at people. This last week, Katie had some surgery, a little bit ago, and it was a week ago or so, but she had surgery, and, it's COVID, so I couldn't be in the surgical center, and they put her out, so I was sweating it out. I dropped her off. I went back to the house, and I actually came and recorded here, and then came back, went back last week, and and picked her up, and, they put her out, so she's all groggy and stuff, so I promise, I didn't mess with her too much, really. Maybe a little bit, but not a whole lot, And so I'm taking her home. I'm being a good husband, and we pull up to this light. And I'll forget, I look across the light, and on the other side of the road, there's a giant parking lot over there. And down off of one of the little landscape places, it's got a curb on it, I saw someone on the ground, and it was a man, and he was laid, and his shoulder was like half on the curb, and he was half in the road, and he was flopping around. It was very disturbing. It looked like a fish that was out of water, and it was very disturbing, and the light's red, and I can't get over there, and I've got Katie, and I'm like, okay, all right, so I pull out my phone, I call 911, and I was like, hey, there is a guy over here on the ground, and his politics are all jacked up. I think he's got a MAGA shirt on, and we need to fix that, because as he flops around on the pavement, I can see that. No, I didn't do that. What I did, I called, hey, excuse me, 911. There's a guy on the ground over here, and he has not had a haircut in a very long time, and it's obvious he's not well into grooming. Can you get someone over here to help him know how to groom? Because as he flops around on the pavement over there, I don't like the way he's groomed. No, I didn't do that. I called and I said, hey, excuse me, this person is in distress. They need help right away. I wasn't worried about what they were dressed like. I wasn't worried about what their politics were. I didn't care. The biggest need was right there in front of us. They were flopping around, obviously having a seizure. They were hurt. They were injured in some way, shape, form, or fashion, and they needed help. And I called 911, and I'm like, hey, this is my number. Is it where I'm at? They need to get here real quick. And as I'm calling, there's a car pulling in over there and trying to get out to help them. And I'm like, do you need me over there? And they're like, no, we'll be there in a second. You go out. And I said, it was great because my wife just got out of surgery. So awesome. And so we got that person help. And yeah, we kept the main thing. And yeah, maybe dude hadn't had a bath in a while. I don't know. Maybe they bathed him up at the hospital. Maybe they had to put him in a wheelchair and they had to exert energy to get him from point A to point B. Maybe they had to explain to him. He was out of it. Maybe they had to explain to him what's going on. Maybe they had to call a family member and bring more people in to help. Yeah, they had to deal with a lot of minor needs all the way through that, but the main need was this man was in distress and he needed help now. You see, that's how we need to approach the relationships in our life. Every person you see around you is in need. Now, it's not as urgent, in that way, as they're going to die and go to hell, but you just don't know. They're not going to die the next minute. They may not. You never know. But it's just as important to keep that in front of them. And yeah, we may have to meet a lot of little needs, and we have to help somebody talk through a crisis. We may help somebody move. We may do something. We may be, who knows? And the Lord may use them to meet needs in our life. But we have to keep the main thing out there, and the whole thing of everything that I do. The reason that I have a wife is to help her know Jesus. The reason I have kids is to try to help them know Jesus. The reason I am talking to you in this relationship, even if it's something we just had this one time and we're just talking this one time, or you've watched me a bunch of times, or you know me in person or you don't, is so that I can help you know Jesus. That's it. I want you to know that there's pain a part of that process, but if you're going to grow, you got to let go. And if you're a Christian out there, you need to understand that you've got to repeat this process because the way you love God is shown in the way you love people. I'm going to give you a few action steps this week. A few action steps I want you to take a hold of. One, I want you every day when you get out of bed, I want the first thing to come to your mind after you spend time with the Lord, but I want you to acknowledge before you get on your day, I am here today to help everyone I meet in some way grow toward Jesus. Some way, shape, form, or fashion. I am here to help people know Jesus. And I want you to make a commitment. The second thing is I want you to make a commitment to follow the Spirit in doing that. When I tell you that you're here to make everybody know Jesus, that doesn't mean you just grab it out of the throat and you start shoving the gospel down their throat. No, you're supposed to be driven by the Spirit. God knows what he needs you to do. You just need to be open and ready to do it. In fact, I will tell you this. Don't you dare give your 2 cents on the gospel if the Spirit's not moving you to do so. But at the same time, with the same fervor, with the same energy, don't you dare miss an opportunity to share anything or do anything God has put on your heart before someone else because you're scared of it or you don't want to deal with it. A lot of people use that, well, the Spirit didn't move me as an option. That's kind of the cop-out. Well, the Spirit didn't move me to say anything. And really, inside in their heart, they got the fingers in their spiritual ears going, no, I can't hear him. Open up, be ready. Say, look, I'm here to help everybody I meet know more about Christ. I'm going to follow the Spirit. I'm going to make that commitment. I'm going to keep my ears open, my eyes open. I'm going to be observant. And then I want you to, the third thing is expect to take action today on that. You look for opportunities. You look at Jesus. Jesus knew why he came. I'm here to help people know and reconnect them back to God. I am here to help people grow. It's going to be a painful part of that process. I know it. I'm ready for it. And I'm going to follow the Spirit in doing it. I'm on my way, doing my thing, going to the store. Jesus was passing through Jericho and the Spirit led him. Boom. Zacchaeus, this is what I'm here for today. And when it came time, he took action on it. So I want you to acknowledge while you're here every day. Help people know Christ. 2, I want you to make a commitment to follow the Spirit in that and not stick your fingers in the ears and ignore him. And then 3, I want you to expect to take action. When the time comes, do it. I'm going to give you a little exercise to help you as well. Maybe take a sheet of paper, write down, and just do it today. Take a sheet of paper, take your phone, write down. Okay, God, who are the relationships I know I'm going to meet this week? Who people I'm going to meet? Maybe they're going to meet them today in like 5 minutes. And you're going to write down their name. And then I want you to write down one way. God, how can I help them know more about you? Knowing what I know about them, the characteristics that they have, see, like Zacchaeus, what do I know about them? What do I know? And how can I help them? Show me, God, how do I help them? And write it down, and then act on that. Christian, that's why we're here. But now some of you out there, you're not a Christ follower, and you're just, and I applaud you for staying this long. Dude, it's awesome, man. That's great. But maybe you're more like the person that's in the parking lot, and you're laying in the parking lot with your shoulder half up on the curb, and you're kind of flailing around. Now, maybe on the outside, you look great. You got all the right clothes and stuff, and you're funny and all this type of stuff, and you got money, and you're doing all your stuff. Or maybe you're hurting, or maybe out to the side, but on the inside, you know you're kind of flailing around. And you know because you got to have a screen in front of your face every 5 seconds, and you just put more and more and more so that you don't have to deal with the fact of what's going on inside of you with whatever situation that you're dealing with. I want you to know the reason you're watching this today is because Jesus is there for you. And you're not too bad to know him, and you're not too good to need him. In fact, you're right where you need to be right now, and he's calling out to you. And the way you begin that relationship is you recognize, hey, I've screwed up somewhere. We're not at odds. I'm doing it my way. In other words, I'm a sinner. That's what everybody is. It's not an insult, it's a fact. Accept it. And realize there's a penalty for sin, and that's eternal death. That's eternal separation from God. And we've been separated from God. I was separated from God. You were separated from God the minute we decided to sin. But we can return to God. God sent Jesus to live as a person on this earth. He lived as a man, never sinned. But he died on a cross unjustly, but took the punishment for our sin. And because he did that, he offers us an opportunity, and that's the opportunity he has for you today, that if you would commit to him, confess with your mouth that he's Lord, put him in front, you're the boss, and believe in your heart. In other words, all of your being, I'm going to follow you, Lord. I'm going to trust you. I'm going to trust you for my life. From that point on, Jesus said that he came that you may have life and have it to the full. Part of that's going to be letting him show you what full really means to you. But following him there, and if that's the commitment that you want to make with your life, I pray that you would click on the Connect card right now and that you would let us know that. There's a place you can say, I'm accepting Christ for the first time, and I would love to know that. If you go to another church, hey, don't worry about it. If you're playing hooky today and you just realize you needed Jesus, they're going to be super cool with that, and you tell them. They're going to be awesome, If you don't have a church and you're in the Palm Bay Brevard area, dude, come on. No worries. Come out here. If you're somewhere else until you get, hey, you're welcome. But if you have a connection with a church here, you know someone, dude, go there. If you live so far away that you can't make a 12-hour commute on Sundays to be at our church every week, dude, it's okay. Dude, hit the Connect card anyway because I want to help you get involved with a church in your area. And I'll use the influence I have, the people that I know, and we'll pray together and we'll just go on a journey and we'll find a great church for you. I'd love to help you do that. But we want to know. We want to pray for you because the truth is when you start to follow Christ, it's the starting line. The finish line is so much farther out there and there's so much waiting. We want to help. You see, that's why we're here, is to help you grow closer to Christ. It's called making disciples. In fact, that's our mission statement, to make disciples here and everywhere for the glory of God. And that's what we're here for. But again, I'd like to thank you for being a part of Bay West today. Thank you so much for choosing us today. If you'd love to be in a life group, obviously, baywestchurch.com/groups. And click the Join a Life Group button there. And, my Facts group meets Sunday nights. Right now, don't forget next week, we're going to be doing communion online. So right here on this, we're going to give it a shot and see what happens. Get your crackers and your juice, whatever you need, be ready next week. Or you can come if you want to be in town and you feel safe. Come on out, 1115, 100 Emerson Drive, Northwest Palm Bay, Florida, 32907. Pop it in GPS, come on out. If you remember parents, join Bay West Kids Zone. That'll help you disciple your kids. We'll hopefully have some good news on things soon there. And if you love to give your tithes and offerings, obviously, you can do that securely online at baywestchurch.com/give through that giving apparatus. Or if you're a check person, you like snail mail, no worries. Just make the check out to Bay West Church and go Bay West Church, 100 Emerson Drive, Northwest, Palm Bay, Florida, 32907. But we hope to see you guys next week as we continue this series with something extremely important again next week that will change your life. You guys have an awesome week.